Hey, everybody. I know I am about 1 minute early, just like last time. Got so shell shocked from the time that I did this live unplanned when the stream didn't go through that time I tried Facebook that ever since then, I always feel like I want an extra minute on my side. So for those of you that are already here, hey, I'm so glad that you're here. And hopefully we'll be able to fill up and get going on time, but we'll give that extra minute there to just let people hop on. I've got things scattered all around my table, so I'm going to be looking like I'm distracted because I'm going to be grabbing for some different things throughout this time frame tonight so that I can really share lots of ideas. Some of the things that I did in my classroom, other things are great things that teachers have shared with me that they've done in their classrooms. And all of them are really to just build up and boost that bag of tricks that you have off the cuff that you just pull out of your sleeve in the 3 minutes that you have that's unexpected when the natives are getting restless and you want to use that time with value. And yet you need to just do something without any supplies, any prep, any kind of planning. So that's really the focus of where we're going to be headed tonight, is just to take all of the best ideas that are out there, specifically in regard to building that automaticity for reading and writing across any grade level, and trying to do it with as little as possible so that we are just always ready with what we need on hand as teachers for anything that gets thrown at us during the instructional day. And of course, if you're a teacher, then you know that most of what you do every minute of every day is improv anyway, because the best plans go undone sometimes. Teaching is such an unexpected thing. So from that end, I always love to have an arsenal of games, just tricks that were open-ended or tricks for taking games that were open-ended and using them in different settings with different kids for different purposes. Sometimes because someone walks into your classroom and you need that 3 minutes of focused attention and listening, and it's hard when the kids are getting, restless. And depending on what grade level you teach, the earlier they are, the least capable they are of really obviously being on their own for more than about 22 seconds. So a lot of these games you can really toss out and start playing for moments of downtime that you might need to either address a visitor that just came into your classroom or to, as I said, delay a few minutes before lunch once your plans run out, or even if you have an assessment and you need to kind of switch gears, go in a different direction, get some more focused, concentrated attention. So lots of them lend themselves to different things, and I see we're starting to fill up, which is awesome. I also did want to make a mention. I was confused because I saw a certain number that were on last week with the chat. And then I saw about 6 times that number within 10 minutes of the chat ending, of the video ending, that had viewed the video. So I was completely confused because I really thought the number should match up. And then I was inundated with emails and messages from folks that were here, but didn't know how to get onto the chat. So they weren't showing up in real time as being live. They were live, they just couldn't access the chat. So I know some of you, hopefully we've kind of talked a little bit about how to rectify that. So at least in some of the messages, because I didn't really think about that, but hopefully those of you that were trying to actually participate are able to do that now. Those of you that aren't, if you're new and you're just not quite still sure how to use the YouTube channels, hopefully we know, I'm happy that you're here. Hopefully next time, if you can get into the chat, then you'll be able to actually ask questions. And the only other thing I wanted to apologize for was that there were some amazing questions and comments in the last week's chat that were toward the top, and I totally missed them. So I scrolled down, I thought I got all the way back up, but I didn't even touch it. So there were some really awesome things. So if you posted at the top part of the chat, like the top maybe 50 comments last week, I did not see some of those. I will use those for jumping points for some other Secret Sundays, though, because some of you had great questions and awesome ideas, and your interactions sometimes are so amazing that if I pay too much attention, I'll actually lose my train of thought, because it's almost like a whole session inside of a session. Okay, so we're going to jump right in. I don't want to take up too much of your time tonight, and I want to throw a lot out and then make sure I can address anything that you want to ask or throw out to me. Some of you got, or hopefully saw, the secret blast that went out, the email blast. It hasn't been archived yet into a blog post, but it had some pictures, just a few, but it had some pictures of what we're going to talk about tonight, or at least of a few pieces, a few games that we're going to talk about tonight. My goal is this week, if I can. I'm going to California. If you're going to be at the California Kindergarten Conference, I will see you there this coming weekend. But my goal is to compile lots of pictures of teachers in classrooms and students actually playing or engaging in these activities and games that I'm going to talk about tonight. So some of them were in that email blast that you received and will then be archived into that post on the blog. Others are going to be kind of compiled with that plus a whole lot more into another post, and it's probably going to be called Off the Walls. So if you do get the secret blast, you can at least, you've had a little peek of what some of these might look like as we start to talk about them, but you'll get a lot more. So if anything I'm describing tonight is making sense and you think you got it and then you're ready to play it, and then maybe 8 days later you're trying to remember, how did she play that? And I don't remember, I'm trying to remember what that looked like. You can go to the blog that will be up called Off the Walls and be able to remember it by visually seeing it. The other thing that I want to make sure that I mention tonight is if you are subscribed to the Secret Blast, which is really the best way to make sure that you get everything, because I try to archive everything on the blog, but sometimes I get caught up with travel and there's a delay and then I forget about one that never made it over. Make sure you add me though to your address contacts. So when you get an email, or even tonight after this post, if you just add that Katie Garner or katie@katiegarner.com to your contacts list, then nothing will go to spam, because there are there have been some instances where some folks had missed some of the free downloads or just posts in general, and it's because it went to spam. Most filters aren't spamming it, but it's possible that it is. So please make sure to add that to your contacts list. Just wanted to toss that out. Okay, so we're going to jump in with a couple of some of my favorite ones first. Games fall into some different categories. There are whole group games, which are, again, the kind that you can just plop down and start playing with in any context that arises in your classroom. Johnny throws up all over the floor. You got to grab Johnny and, toss him off to the nurse. Kids need to have something to occupy themselves for the next, 1 minute and 47 seconds. So these are games that if they get comfortable with the titles or the names of the games, you can just toss out the name of the game, pick one kid to start that ball rolling, and then it just should play itself. So these are some of my favorite ones because they give you the most flexibility, or at least the grouping that I'm going to talk about. I'm actually going to start with one, though, that's a little bit different. It's one that kids can play by themselves, but it's one that when you start it, you want to actually be a part of it. And most often when you play it, because it goes on for a bit, you're going to want to participate with the kids. So I'll let you know as I'm going through some of these if they are independently easy or if they're one that you're going to plop on the floor and actually participate with them on. So the first one that I want to mention is called Telephone Secrets. Now this is, all of these are going to be very simple, but they're going to be kind of upside down and a little bit askew, because it's taking something, and this is what I always like to do, taking something that you already own. This is actually what the secrets are in a nutshell. Taking something that's familiar, taking something that you really have known like the back of your hand, no brain power and space is required to process it, but taking that shell of familiarity and powering it up with a piece that really takes it to a whole nother level, or gives you something that you didn't have before, but housing it in something that's readily familiar. So you have a familiar track for your brain to access it. Even though the information's new, whether that be a secret, a phonics pattern, or in tonight's case, a game, the information's new, but it's just so it's just so inextricably linked to something that's already deep in the gut. So we all know this telephone game. We played this game when we were younger, and you just tell a secret or a sentence, and by secret I don't mean phonics secret, but you tell any little ditty or a message, and you pass it around, and it goes all the way around the circle. And then the goal of the game is to see if the person at the end is able to tell it in a way that makes sense. Well, secret stories lend themselves to this game in a really fun way. So to play this, and there's some different ways you can do some of these games as far as controlling the secrets that are going to be tossed out in these games. So in this game, you can either bypass having any access to a hands-on material to start the game, or you can use, if you have the secret stories, there are cut-apart cards in the back of your book. And these cut-apart cards, well, they're in the back of every book, but they're not in the back of this one. This is one I grabbed out of the office, so that must be why it's in the office, because it's a mistake. So in the back of every book are these little cut-apart cards. And those little cut-apart cards can be a great game starters. So they're a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller than the flashcards. They're maybe about half of the size. And they're in the back of every single secret storybook, except, of course, this one. So when you get those little cards, you can put them in a basket. And if you're sitting on the floor with the kids and you're in a big circle, have the cards all face down so the kids can't see them. And either you can let the person sitting to your right pick one, or you can hand them one that you know you've talked about that week or gone over to reinforce last week, or perhaps it fits in beautifully with the 20 sight words or vocabulary words or spelling list, or whatever it is that's going on in that week that you either want it to solidify or maybe go back and reinforce something from a previous week's lesson. So whether you want to take the control of which secret to hand or let them just blindly pick. So the student picks the secret card, whatever it might be. And then when they see the card, they should be able to remember the story, or at least tell it in their own version, in their own way. Because all of this, again, the secrets are always something that is familiar. So even if their language background is, diverse, or they maybe are newer to your class, if you're looking at a secret, there should be an obvious outcome of sound. Now, how the student gets from A to B is up to them. They can tell the secret any way they want to, as long as it ends with "Arr!" So as you let this little guy to your right pick his secret and he sees it, he's got to keep it close to his vest. He can't let anybody else see it, but he's then got to tell the story to his neighbor as best as he can. Not make the sound, just tell the story. Now, this is going to be passed from student to student to student to student, and depending on how many students you have, my highest was 42. So if you have 42 students, the odds that this story is going to take a turn for the worse is pretty high. But it's going to go all the way around the story, the circle, and you'll start to notice that something's gone awry when the kids' faces go from, I totally get what he's saying, to when they start to look like what the person that just talked in their ear said made no sense at all. That's your clue that the secret's become broken apart in such a way that it's not recognizable to the kids. Now, keep in mind, if you're using secret stories, you're telling secrets all the time. So these are readily familiar to the kids. But if you start to see those funny faces, that's where the game actually gets a little bit fun. Now, depending on the knowledge and the familiarity and the deep in the gut ownership of the secret, kids will be able to pull themselves back on track. So even if the story itself has become a tattered mess, if there are enough trigger words that they notice and that student that's listening is catching even just a few pieces of it, he should be able to put it back together in a way that hopefully it will come back on track as the circle goes around. Now, by the time it gets back to you, or at least back to the student that's to your left, that student has the biggest task of all. That student's going to not only have to retell the story, and you want to let the kids know that just for the sake of the game, retell it exactly the way it was shared with you. So even if that student knows what the story was they were trying to get across, but it came across in a horribly injured way, tell them, go ahead and share it exactly as you were told. And then ask them, can you tell me what secret that was, and tell it the correct way, so you can see how far apart the versions got, and then let them make the sound. Or you can let the whole group make the sound once the story's been identified. Now, if the story comes back in such shambles that no one can make heads or tails of it, then it's kind of fun sometimes to play an investigator and see where it went awry, or what part of the story maybe was missed. And certainly if you have newer kids in your class, kids coming and moving in and out, they're going to be a little bit less familiar with some of the secrets that have just become old hat for the kids in your classroom on all year. But this is still a great way to really make them a part of the woodwork of what your kids are using all day long to read and write, but in a way where it's not preachy and lectury and catch-uppy. Every kid's just getting to kind of buff up and polish up their ownership of the secrets. And some have a rougher piece of woodwork, obviously, than others do. And your ELL kids, this is a great way for them to really expand and what's the right word? Not necessarily practice stringing words together, but enjoy the opportunity to see how they can pull thoughts together to get to what they already know the sound is going to be, but pull from an arsenal of vocabulary that they've been developing to try to get from the beginning of the story, which they know, to the end, which they know, but doing it with words that maybe aren't yet completely familiar, vocabulary, English that's not completely solidified. Again, the beauty of this is it's a strong Band-Aid, because if the ELL guy is right in between a couple of other kids, no matter what transpires from this ear to this mouth, you're going to get the story kind of hopefully bolstered back into shape by the rest of the kids as it moves from one learner to the other, because of the way that the kids are sitting. Now, if you want to strategically place them, you can do that too, but I always love to just throw it out there. It's almost as much fun when the story goes amok as it is when it comes back intact. So I love, 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 love that game. There's also something right alongside with that called Around the World Secret Spelling. This is really fun because you can actually do this in two different ways. Around the World Secret Spelling, everybody's sitting in a circle and you give a word. So you just say a word. Now, there's going to be a download that you're going to have, and that's got some word cards on it. And I want to thank Tara Suttle for putting that together. So you can use words like that. You can use words that are simple, like, bet. Or you can use a word like, chunky or thunder. You could even say exclamation point. So depending on the time of the year, where your kids are, and sometimes it's fun to mix it up no matter what time of the year is and where your kids are. But you toss out a word, and the person that is immediately next to you on your right, again, if you're sitting in the circle, has to say the first letter in that word. Now, you can play this in a couple different ways because it can, the easier way to play it is if, let's say, the word is this, or better, with. So the first student says W. The next student has to be listening and paying attention to know that the next sound they need is I. Now, the third student, and this is the easier version, can just give you, if you're playing this secret way, they can just say TH. And that's actually easiest because when kids go to put sounds together to write a word, they're going to hear the secret as if it's one thing. So they don't think about secrets. And this is part of why this is so useful with kids that are dyslexic or students that have some processing glitches. Secrets don't go through the front door where kids have to learn a sequence of letters in a particular order that designate a certain sound. Secrets are tracked more like student names. So if I know AUAW, love each other and go, I just say AUAW. I don't necessarily know those two letters individually yet, or what they do when they aren't together, because I might learn the AUAW on the first day of kindergarten when we're looking at the word August, and yet the individual letters aren't going to come on board for 2 weeks to 2 months with a better alphabet song. So just like kids who, let's say, are dyslexic, they don't accidentally call Bobby E-Bob or Jimmy me Jim. Jimmy's Jimmy. It's an entity. It exists as a whole. Bobby's Bobby. It's an entity. It exists as a whole. AUAW, same thing. It's an entity. It's kind of locked together. There's a saying that's what's used together is fused together in the brain. So when kids go, I love good driving in cars, horrible, awful, terrible, no good drivers, and always go, ER, it's locked together. So having said that, this game is easier when you let the students say the whole secret that's in the word, and that one student gets to say the secret, TH. So if the word was turn, one little girl would say T, one would say UR or ER or IR. Any of those are great guesses. And of course, you can correct it on the spot. Let them know to try another one. Don't tell them it's wrong. Just say it's awesome that they know how to get that sound. But grown-ups, actually the grown-up one is a different one. Can they try a different one? Can they tell you another way to get the sound? And when they get the right sound, you can say, that's right. That's the one that the grown-ups actually use to spell that word. But great job for knowing what sound to get, what letters make that sound. That's awesome. Since you're so smart, I'm going to tell you the one that grown-ups use to spell the word turn. Now, the last little guy would say N, and then the little kid that's next would just say the word turn. So everybody has to be listening in order to do their part, including the kid who has to say the word at the end. That's key, because often kids will stop listening if they know their turn isn't coming up. So the beauty of this is if a student does it wrong, it goes to the next person. So you never know. You might be sitting on the other end of the circle, but it's very possible that this will work its way all the way to you. And even the student who has not had to spell the word is going to have to put all those sounds together to say the word at the end. Now, if you want to take this up a notch, what you can do is split apart the secrets. So to do it this way, what happens is when you're going, the first little girl says, t, second one says, you. So even though she's hearing it as, and you'll even see her little eyes look up and kind of go to the side because she's going. So she knows it's ER, IR, or UR, but she's got to just pick the next letter for whichever one she chooses. And then the next student has to really have paid attention because they got to give you the next letter that's in that secret, and then so on and so on. And then the last little one puts it all together and says the words turn. So that makes it even harder, especially when you get to sounds like tion or ous or ing, ang, ong, ung. It's tricky to come in the middle of a secret and toss out just that one letter that's next and that's missing. But it's a really, really fun way to get highly focused concentration and attention. I think initially, until the secrets are pretty secure and you're really starting to see them popping up in the writing pretty consistently, I like to do it the other way. I think more kids are able to connect with why a little one might go, you are, or, ing, because everybody understands when they hear those letters together. Again, it triggers the sound. When they're said individually, you're actually challenging that part of the brain that we don't have to rely on to access secrets, but that is sometimes a minefield for learners that either are have a longer learning curve, or that maybe have some dyslexic issues, or that have some learning glitches or delays. That kind of puts it back into a spot that's going to challenge them more. So I love ways to really boost it, to raise the bar, but I also like to know that bar isn't the door kids have to get through in order to be able to read and write. So what I mean by that is raising the bar is great when it's done with no cost. But I always like to avoid the minefields whenever we can, using the brain science to make sure that if that bar is raised, it's not the door kids have to get through in order to access text. So keeping it accessible is the number one rule. And then going from there, letting the assessment drive your instruction, taking a look at the kids. If it's just too easy, up the ante. I would do this with long words that had sometimes no secrets, fantastic, or supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I did do that one year, and we went around the world about 4 times to try to finish that one up. And again, it's a great way to really work on segmentation and blending, because the kids have to pay such attention to every single thing and sound it out as they go and keep going back. So it really takes your little assessment that we do one-on-one, and it ups it 1,000 times over. But because it's engaging and fun, you get more bang for the buck. There's more instructional density there. There's more payoff for the time spent. Secret stories tag. Now, if you've ever played eraser tag, and I know I'm kind of ignoring what's going on the side right now, only because this is really hard for me because I've got this list and I want to make sure I say everything right. Secret stories tag. I mentioned duck, duck, goose last week. Duck, duck, goose is a way we shift it to vowel, vowel, consonant. And just a quick recap, if you weren't with us, the kids sit in a circle. Instead of going duck, 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 goose, they'll say C, P, L, O. And whoever is hit for the vowel, that person has to get up and chase the person that's it all the way around and see if they can catch them before they get into the spot. I mentioned that you can up the ante on that game by, instead of saying the letters, say words. So you could say hit, sat, eat. So if it's a short vowel word, they just get tapped. It's like duck, duck, duck. But on that long vowel word, the vowel is always the goose. The kid's got to get up and run and chase. So that's a fun thing to do. The eraser tag, or the secret eraser tag, I call it eraser tag because we used to do it with the erasers on our head. But the secret tag is very much the same way. All you do is you pick a student to be it. And now this is where you do not give them the secret. This is something that kids can do on their own. The only thing is they do have to be in a circle to do it. So sometimes you can replicate this just sitting at the desks. And that's where it can look more like a eraser tag. But this would be in a circle. And you just pick a student to be it. And that student will get up and start walking around the circle. And as they're walking around the circle, they're not going to tap heads. But as they're walking around the circle, they're going to very slowly tell a secret. They're not going to tell the letters. They're just going to tell the secret. So these letters like to, let's see if I can pull one. These letters play really rough, and someone always gets hurt. Now, they don't have to tell. In that case, there are a couple different options. They can just tell that first part, because the point is, when they are done telling the secret, they have to bop someone in the head. And the person that they bop on the head has got to get up, shout out the letters, and then chase them back to their spot. So it requires everybody to listen very well, constantly be thinking about what secret it could be. And then if you're chosen, you've got to spit out what letters that student's talking about. And then in order to win and actually get to be it, you also have to say the sound. So once the student that was it finally runs and plops down in the hole that's in the circle, that's when the person that was trying to chase him then has to also say, ow, and also, oh. So it tests them on their ability to tell a secret, because if you're it, you're going to have to come up with one. Now they can tell anyone they want. So if they are a new student and they've only got a couple under their belt, this is a good game for them because you're not dictating what secret they tell. They just get to tell one, and they can even look at the posters to recall one to tell. So they have to be able to string the words together to tell the secret. Then whoever it is they pick has to identify what letters the secret's about. And then before they can officially take over and be it, they have to be able to say the sound. So again, you're just always looking for ways to assess secret to sound to symbol, symbol to sound to secret. It's like a bridge with two sides. And you're just always making sure that they can go from sound to symbol, symbol to sound, and that the bridge is intact that takes them from one end to the other. So that when they're not with you, when they're at home, when they're at summer break, they can still make sense of text. They won't be able to turn it off. They will be readers because you can't turn off things that make sense. So if we can get these connections that tight, that quick, that automatic, then when kids see a word, even if they don't have books at home, anywhere they're in their environment, words that are on litter, flyers from the concert last weekend or a billboard in their neighborhood, the automaticity of see that symbol sound pops out of my mouth. That's what we want. We want to shorten the bridge. That is the story. So they can easily move from symbol to sound or sound to symbol. One is decoding, one is encoding, and we want it to be as deep in the gut as possible. Games are just a great way to really just step up that reinforcement. Secret stories, concentration. Now, secret stories, and actually, I want to skip around here just a minute before I hit that one. Sing the sounds. There is, the letter runs if you have the secret stories, and they're similar to something that goes, depending on how you do it, a, b, k, d, f, g, or if it's long vowel letter run, a, b, k, d, e, f, g, or you might do it backwards. You could do short vowel letter runs, long vowel letter runs, forward, backward. That tune is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but it doesn't have to be. So this is called, let me see what was the actual name of it. I used to call it something different that wouldn't make as much sense to you. But this one's called Sing the Sounds. And you can take any tune you want. I know Amy Mitchell did this to Christmas carols for a parent holiday time where the kids had to sing the letter run, not the better alphabet, the letter run. And they could put it to different holiday tunes. So let's say it's Jingle Bells. And let's say my alphabet train's up here. Abacadabra, I don't know if I did that right or not without the alphabet because it's really hard if you're not able to look at the letters. But if you're looking at the letters, it's actually not hard at all because you're just seeing the symbol, making the sound, seeing the symbol, making the sound. Renee did it, and I think I saw her name in here as well, to the Jedi, Star Wars Jedi, which was also really cool. Now, usually you want to call out whether it's going to be the long or the short version because kids need to know whether to go abacada or abacada. It's either, abacada effaga or abacada effaga. Now, people who don't have secret stories are like, what is she even talking about? But I promise if you look at the link, I put all the links ahead of time in the video. So if you look at the links in the video description, you'll be able to see what this looks like and understand better what I'm saying. But if it's a long or a short version, that dictates whether it's abacada effaga or abacada effaga. And if it's a sound for C or for G or a consonant that makes more than one sound, then this is like being a triage nurse. You're only going to get to hit most likely first. So C is always K, G is going to be G. So even though the better alphabet gives kids both options to have up their sleeve, the one that's most likely is the one you're going to hit first for this song because you just go too fast to be able to do both. Having said that, Renee did do both. Somehow or another, probably because her kids are musical geniuses, she realized that the Jedi Star Wars song actually had exactly the number of notes to fit in exactly the sounds of every single letter, both soft and hard consonants and short and long vowels. So that's kind of an anomaly. Typically, when you just grab any song that you happen to know, it doesn't work like that. So that's why I always like to identify before we start whether it's going to be the long or the short version. And if I just sounded like I was talking in Latin right now, because I think I may have even confused myself a little bit, then I promise when you click on the link, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And any song, I think I've seen it done to Frozen. I've seen it. I've just seen it done with songs I never even would have thought to use, but that kids are, making requests for. And that's really what makes it the most fun, is mixing, again, what they love and bring to the table with what you're wanting to do anyway. And then it's just a perfect marriage of engagement. Okay, and candy quizzes. Now, there is a link to this. I mentioned it in a previous post. I don't think I put the link. Candy quizzes are kind of like secret spelling around the world, except you're not in a circle. Kids are doing this almost in lieu of a spelling test, but for fun. You give any word that you want to, and they earn an M&M or a candy for every sound that they can capture in the word. There is a way to make sure that that actually happens to the best of their ability, and that is the Zookeeper M&M quiz trick. And you will see that link in the link that's down below in the description. So when you look at the candy quiz link, it will be a vlog of me explaining exactly how this works. And then you will see a link to the little kind of booster shot, which is the Zookeeper trick, in that video link. So I'm not going to go into more detail on that one, because you will have more than you would ever want to know about that in the links below. But it's a really fun way to kind of see informally, get an informal and yet highly valid assessment of what the kids can do that you can use for measurement, which is a little bit different than, when it's a circle and kids are working together more as a group. Now, whole group. These, actually not whole group, but back to the link. And these can be whole group in terms of happening at the same time, but they're really going to work better in small group or with partners. So the first one that I want to mention is the secret concentration. And you're going to have a free link to this in the description. And I believe that I put it in there now. If it's not in there, it will be in there immediately following this video, because we were uploading some different versions. Actually, Tara Settle, we were talking about different ways to do secret concentration, because I used to do it a different way. And then she had some ways to extend it. So she just uploaded a quick direction sheet and some simple cards to get you started. And I really appreciated her doing that, because now it's an easy download for you. So the Google Docs link should be in the description, and I'll explain a quick explanation of how you can play with this in different ways. But the way that I used to do it was the most common form of what we think of for concentration. And I'll tell you right now how I did it. And I'm going to have to grab something from my table here, which is this. I used to have, these are the Porta-Picks, and usually they're trifolds. So they have little scored edges. These don't. I'm always grabbing rejects from the publishing office that are screw ups in some way. So like the book that had no cards, it's like the land of misfit toys, the book with no cards, and the trifolds with no scored edges, because the others have these scores. Normally they're like this. If you cut these apart, and these are something that sometimes you'll have extras of, because they come in class sets, and I think they're like $2.40 a piece, but they're bundled together in class sets of 25. Now, you don't have to use these if you have your book, because you've got the cards in the back of the book, but you've got one set of cards. So now if you don't have any of this, you can do this with just simple index cards that you put the letters on. I think the pictures are what really makes it kind of click for kids. So I'm going to explain it with this, but anytime you see me showing something that, let's say, you don't have, because let's say you don't have secrets and you don't even have the cut apart cards in the back, you can always substitute it with just the letters. And you'll actually see on the download that you have tonight, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about a little bit easier. But if you have two sets of these and you cut these apart, and then you turn these over so that they are just scattered randomly in a grid-like formation on the floor, it's a great center for kids to play concentration. And it's just the easiest version of the game, which is you just turn over different cards 2 at a time and try to find a match. And if you find a match, you get to keep the 2 cards. And if your partner finds a match, he gets to keep the 2 cards. And then whoever has the most cards at the end wins. The visual acuity is the goal of this game. It's not, I mean, ideally you want them to also make the sound. That's key. So once they get a match, in order to keep the match, meaning if I found 2 of the same secret, let's say that I cut these apart, they're laid out randomly across the floor. It doesn't even need to be a grid. It could just be like a big fish pile mess, as long as they're face down. And if I happen to be able to find a match, I know this is upside down and backwards. Let's say I find the TH and then I was able to remember where the other TH was. Before I can collect that match and call it my own and add it to my points, I have to be able to go. Now you can add to that and say, and they have to also be able to tell the story. Or you could say that their partner has to be the one to tell the story. But it's kind of nice, I guess, if they're the ones who are going to get the points, that they have to make the sound and tell the story to keep the card. What I like the most about this game, though, at least at this level, is the visual acuity. Half the battle that kids face when they're working their way through text is seeing patterns before they are on top of them. Kids, upper grade reading, struggling readers especially, they don't see patterns in words. They just either know the word, which means they've memorized it, or if you force them to try to read a word that they don't know, they'll do one letter at a time attack. They'll shoot right by patterns like Asian or SION or I'm trying to think of something that might be a little trickier for upper grade words, CECICY. They don't see patterns. They don't jump off the page because they never really owned them early on. So what this game really does is it builds that visual recognition for easier pattern identification in text, because visually they're hunting to find those matches. The byproduct is they also tell the sound in the story, but the real key here is the visual power. Now, Tara's game that you're going to download takes it up a notch. And for this game, you actually do not have to have two sets of the cards, because I know that is going to be a stopper for some folks. Although, you could, if you want to play that other version and you only have, let's say, the cards in the back of your book, you could just make index cards with the same secret patterns on them, even though they don't have the graphics, and you would still have a match. So if you don't have two sets of these to use, or if your book is all you've got access to, you can still make another set. They don't have to actually be real matches, as long as it's the same secret sound. Now, Tara's, you only need those cards in the back of your book and the cards that she's providing. And if you don't have the cards in the back of the book, again, you can just write phonics patterns on little index cards and have the cards that you're going to download in that little pack. You're going to then still do exactly the same thing, which is lay them all out face down, splattered about. You can put them into a grid kind of format too, if you want. It doesn't really matter, whatever makes it easiest. Kids can do this in 2s, in 4s, in 3s, at a center. I mean, you can structure it however you want, as long as the group isn't kind of unwieldy. And what they're going to do, and the directions are part of what you're going to download, but what they're going to do is look for matches, but this time not from a visual perspective, but from a sound and visual perspective. Meaning, if I turn over, you're going to have the cards that you're going to copy that Tara's given you that have words, you're going to make in a color. Those are going to be on color paper, because the cards that you're going to use that are the Secret Stories cards have a white back. So you want to make sure when you turn all these upside down and over that you can differentiate between the two types of cards, because kids are going to turn over one of each. And when they turn over one of each, if they get a match where the word has the secret in it, that's a match, that's a pair. And if they can read the word, they get to keep the match. Now, if they can't read the word, or if it doesn't match, if they turn over, let's say, the TH secret and then the word is when, that's obviously not a match. But if later they turn over the WH secret and they can remember where the word when was, that would be a match. But they have to be able to tell you the word. Now, if they can't tell you the word, that's the beauty of partners. They can support each other. And I know that, the strategic pairing of kids, if you are going to do this in a partner group, or if you know going in that you have some students that are just much weaker or that are newer to your classroom, then sometimes it's helpful to pair those kids up with kids that are a little bit more comfortable, because what they can do, and this will make more of a difference when we talk about conversation stations, which is next, but they can support each other and kind of make sure that before either pair move on, that the story can be retold and that the student knows the sound that they need to figure out that word. If you really, I think Amy Mitchell had said in her Santa post with the secrets about, she actually took a gift box and she wrapped up, she took bunches of like 26 gift boxes, and she took all the sight words that were in the story, not sight words, all the tricky words that were in the story of The Grinch Stole Christmas. And she put a splattering of words in each of the gift boxes. And then she put in the gift boxes the 2 or 3 stories that were needed to unlock those words. And the secret stories were the gift to read those words. So the kids knew when they got their little gift box with the little pink bow and they took the lid off, inside might be 7 words and 2 secret cards. But they know these are the keys that are going to unlock that. So that's a whole nother idea. It's a little more labor intensive as far as the prep aspect, but that's really the connection you're wanting these games to make. And especially the one that I'm talking about with concentration, with the word and the secret, the one you're going to download with the link, because it really it just magnifies the connection as what the secret is and what it does and how many different words it applies to. So this is where kind of the rubber hits the road in terms of not just being cute, fun secrets, and I can go, but the power that lies within that. You know, the golden nuggets that are these pieces of the code that are buried inside of these harmless, simple, developmentally appropriate, no matter where you are, stories. So that is kind of in a nutshell what that little download looks like. Now, having said that part, I want to make sure that I explain this in one other way here. There is another kind of version. It's a little bit different, but it's got a twist. It's called the Secret Story Hunt and Sort. And basically what you do, and again, you can use whatever words are driving you or your kids crazy. So it could either be your words from your Wonders reading series for that unit story, or your journeys list, or your spelling words if you're in second grade, or your vocabulary words if you're working with upper grade struggling learners. So whatever the words are that you know kids are going to have to be unlocking, that some kids are locked out of. So whatever those words might be, and I'm going to describe this as the teacher actually had told me about it. This was Shelly Mann's. This is her little trick. She has a little pocket chart. They call it a cell phone pocket chart because it's small, and I'm not sure where the cell phone part came, but its pockets are about the width and the size of a cell phone. And what she does is she puts those secret story cards in the back of the book into each of the pockets of this little cell phone card holder, or this little pocket chart holder, little with the little see-through front. And then when she has them all there, what the kids will do is they will either sit in pairs, or in their guided group, they will be asked to go on a secret story hunt and capture as many. Now, this is actually two different ways, so I'm contradicting myself. Either you can give them cards, little index cards with the words that you want them to be doing this next step with, or they can capture words from the story that they are reading that week, whether that's their reading series or their spelling list. And when they have those words, they've got to capture the secrets in those words. Now, they can capture them by highlighting them. I call it a secret story hunt because you sometimes will give them like a specific amount of time to see how many they can capture, let's say in their little guided, reader. If they're reproducible white books, that's even more helpful because then they can actually highlight in the reader instead of having to then, rewrite the word on an index card. So once they've, let's say, captured as many secrets as they could find, then what they're going to do is take those words and identify which pocket they fit in. So they have to match up. This is kind of just like concentration, but in reverse, because they're going with the secret that they actually had to identify in the words that they're reading, to then take that word that has the secret in it and align it or connect it by putting it in the pocket with the secret that it fits with. Now, one of the things that Shelly said is sometimes it will fit in more than one pocket. So one of the words that she used as an example was swimming. So obviously you could put that in the blends pocket, or you could put that in the ing yang ong ong pocket. And the conversations that she shared back with regard to what she was listening, what you can overhear kids say, their thinking process was really great. She had said that, some of them were, and actually, I think there was another teacher that was mentioning the same thing. They were connecting this with social emotional ends and saying things like, well, the blends have a lot of friends. They've already got like 1, 2, 3, 4. They've got like 8 words in there in the blends, but the ing ing ong ong is really lonely. It doesn't have any. So I think we should just go ahead and let's just put it in that one so they have friends too. And because the blend secret doesn't need anymore. His pocket's already full, but poor ing ing ong ong is all alone. So having, giving it to them as food for thought to make a determination. There's no wrong answer. It could fit in either pocket. Both secrets were used to unlock that word, but letting them make those decisions about where and how and what, those are the types of conversations that really deepen that ownership, strengthen those synapses, those connections in the brain that move kids from having to think and devote time and space and energy in the brain to more of an automatic route to just getting that immediate sound or symbol they need to read and write. Strengthening those synapses is the key. And the more kids engage in different ways about these otherwise really one-dimensional abstract phonics skills, the more deeply they own them, the more connections they forge to them, and the easier they can retrieve them for everything that reading and writing requires. So I really liked that. It was an easy little thing, but it was fun, and it just added a little bit, another dimension to the concentration idea. Conversation station. Now that term was first phrased by Kim Montgomery, and I just thought it was a neat term. You could even call it secret conversation station, because what kids are going to do, basically, you are just spurring conversations, or not you, but the secrets are, you're just kind of managing where those fires are going to be lit. So like with the other little games, there are some different ways you can play with this. The most, probably the most basic way, I might even mention that one second, actually. I think I will. I'll mention that one second. I'm going to mention the other one first. This is the one that Kim actually uses. And it's interesting because it's got a little add-on to it with writing. And then I'll mention a more simplified way. But anyway, what Kim does is she highlights 4 secrets. So if you have, let's say, again, whatever your reading series is dropping in your lap that week, whatever words are really killing them on their spelling test, whatever the biggest doors are that you're trying to unlock, or that will be in the path of what kids are going to be interacting with that week, pick maybe 4 secrets. And secrets apply to lots of different words. So, pick some that really give kids good bang for their buck. TH is a great example of a secret that if you don't know, you're going to have trouble reading every single sentence in a book, because the word the, this, them, those, they is going to be everywhere. So that's a great high leverage, powerful tool. So obviously that might be one that might get tossed out first, but depending on what you're doing, pick 4, highlight them, and put them on the board. Now, this is where things get tricky, because when I talk about off the wall, and one of the things that, actually, speaking of off the wall, that going back to Shelley Mann, that she said, and I actually wrote this quote and I forgot to read it. She said, just like with the secrets, kids love to touch, feel, and manipulate the words. Kids love to touch, feel, and manipulate the secrets because they're really like other classmates who have other behaviors that they're very well aware of and connected to. So you don't want to actually take the secrets off the walls. If you've got secret posters on your wall, those are going to stay up on your wall. Those aren't going to come down. But there are other pieces that you can use, whether it is the little cards in the back of your book, or the little flashcards, or these placards, which are nice for like up on the board. All these are separately sold outside of a kit. So these are how you can kind of get things off the wall and into the hands of kids. So she'll take 4 of these, and she actually uses this size because I don't think she has the cards. And she puts 4 on the board. Now, she said she has her regular posters still on the wall where they always are. Those are anchors. They never move. They're always where you expect to find them, because kids need to easily access them from anywhere in the classroom. But she'll take 4 of these placards, put them up, and then give each partner group, now this is done in partners, paper, which they will fold into 4 parts. So they have a paper, it's been folded with 4 folds. So they've basically got, the 4 sections of a paper. And what they're going to do is each little partner group is going to recreate those 4 secrets on their little 4 squares. They can draw them to the best of their ability. On the Facebook page, you'll see some versions of this where the kids are drawing some of the secrets, and they like to do that in their free time anyway, so they can give it their best artistic rendering. And while they're drawing the secrets, and after they've drawn the secrets, they are telling everything they know about them. So they are sharing the secret, and one will fill in the gaps for something that the other one maybe didn't share, but they are just going back and forth, and it's basically like a brain purge. They're just telling everything they know about that for all 4 secrets. So the sound, the story, everything. Once they get those 4 secrets into those squares, then they're going to do a free write time where they're actually going to write as many words as they can think of that go with those 4 secrets in those 4 squares. Now, spelling does not have to count if it's a proper choice and you're in K1. So again, what that means is if bird is one of the words that they wrote, but they're in kinder and all they know is the ER, I, or UR, they might spell bird B-U-R-D. Or B-E-R-D. And they get credit for that word. Now, again, you always can follow it up with saying something like, I love that you are just so smart. You knew how to get the sound, but you know what? Since you're already so far ahead, let me just tell you the one that grownups use for that word, it's actually the other one. Do you know what the other sound is? And then let them work their way through. So if you're in real time catching it, go ahead and fine tune it. But they would get credit if if that actual secret is in that word. Now, if they spelled bird B-R-D, obviously they don't get credit for that. But if the secret sound is actually in the word that they wrote, they get credit, and the partner group with the most words is the winner. So that's easy. It's fun. It gives you the same connectivity, but this time, instead of from a decoding end, it's to an encoding end. So instead of taking the symbol to the sound, they're taking the sound to the symbol, because they're having to put together in writing what they've just purged verbally. So that's just a really neat way to do that. Now, the other part of this conversation station can be done a little bit differently. And this is something that was, there are some pictures of, I think, on Facebook, and I'll be adding some additional pictures as well. Conversation stations, if you have kids paired up, let's say in partner groups again, and they have 3 minutes and a timer is set. And in those 3 minutes, let's say each partner group has two secrets. Now, they can either be the squares, you can use the cards in the back of the book, you can use the little placards, you can use the flashcards, or if you don't have any secret stuff, you can just use phonics patterns on index cards. Just keep in mind, again, the whole point of a game is that kids have to really love it and beg to play with it. So visually, you want to try to make sure that they're engaged and excited. So it's better not to just have index card with phonics patterns. So this is one that maybe would lend itself more to actually using the secret story graphic cards or graphics. Now, I've seen this done in classrooms where it was poster size and also with these little flashcards. But basically, all they're going to do is each partner group has 2. They have about 3 minutes to share the 2 secrets, stories, and sounds, plus any words they can think of that have those secrets in them before the teacher is going to say switch. And when the teacher says switch or swap, then they're going to take their 2 cards and they're going to find another partner group to swap with, and they're going to do it again. Now, while this is going on, the teacher can do what I like to call an eavesdrop assessment. It's called secret story swap. But it's fun to have this time where kids are self-run and open-ended in their conversations and discussions, because you can walk around with your observation notes and really listen for ownership. Listen to see if one student's supporting the other, one student may be helping fill in the gaps for another student who's got instant mastery, and not only mastery, but application. He's even coming up with a stream of words, many of which were in last week's lesson, some that you haven't even talked about yet. And you can just get a very good informal assessment of the depth of ownership for each student, because no one's coming up to you asking you a question. You're free to just kind of roam and listen and not talk. And it's hard for teachers. You can imagine how hard it is for me to just not talk. But it's nice when these conversations are happening all over the classroom and you just get to be a fly on the wall and listen to some of the things that kids come up with, because they give you such amazing food for thought to drive your instruction then from there forward. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it without having to have the direct assessment is to use either the bingo cards that were downloaded. If you were here last Friday or last Sunday, those were uploaded with a free link. Some of you that missed it have asked if I could send it to you. I would be happy to send it to you if I could. The problem is that file is so big, it actually pushed the limits of what Teacher Pay Teacher allows for upload. So there was no easy way to send it. It can't be sent in email. So it's on that. I think the link for it is underneath. I will probably do something with it again, maybe in the next few weeks, but that is really the only place to have it housed and have it easily accessible and downloaded. So using either those boards or using the Portapic card, which I'm going to grab from back here again if I can find it. I have no idea how it could go away. Okay, I don't know where it went, but it was those little tiny cards that were on that placard, which I have not moved. So how I have lost this is mind-boggling. But I've done it. So anyway, those little tiny cards. And this conversation station is just a little bit different because kids have little bingo markers, little plastic cues, little discs, and they're doing the same thing. They have 3 minutes, but instead of you giving them posters or like placards, they're using those bingo cards, or they're using those Portapics that are those trifolds with all those little squares. And they are having to tell a secret, point to it, make the sound, and then if they did it right, then they get to put a marker on it. And then it's their partner's turn. And in 3 minutes, they get to see how many markers they can earn, and they play multiple rounds. So if a student is not able, and oh, I forgot to say one thing. The partner tells them which one to tell. So if you're my partner, I point to the square that has the secret in it that you now have to tell me the story for and make the sound for. If you can do that, you get to put a marker there, and then it's your turn to point one out for me. If you can't do that, I will help you. I will support you, and I will help you understand what the story is and what the sound is. And it's important that I do that because we only have 3 minutes. So I can't get my markers unless I get you through what you need. Now, you won't get a marker if I have to help you, but I have to make sure that I've helped you know what the secret is and know what the sound is, and then given you a chance to give it back to me so that I get my turn to then try to earn markers. And because these are just 3-minute little clips, kids can play multiple rounds of them, and then at the end of maybe a 30-minute time, and you can even have one of the kids be the timer if you want to and kind of do the walk around. But at the end of a certain amount of time, then whoever has won the most rounds is the winner. So that's another fun way to kind of ante up that conversation station. Now, the last one I want to hit, because I know I'm going to go over if I don't do it, so I'm going to do it quickly here. And this was my favorite one, is to make the kids the word. And this is just such a cool way to do it. You can do it in one of two ways. I have some things that you can use to do this with, but they're actually not my favorite. The ones I have are just kind of a fail-safe thing that you can use. And basically, I think if you type in headbands on TPT, you'll see these headbands for different pieces. And basically, that's how you turn kids into manipulatives. But my favorite way to do this is to get those little vests that have those little see-through cellophane pockets. And then you put the cards into those little pockets so that kids literally become a letter or they become a secret. So you can do this in a couple different ways. One way you can do it is let the kids be the word. So what you would do is let's say you hand a letter to every letter of the alphabet. You give one letter to every single student in your class. And let's say that I might even give maybe some of the letters that you know are going to be repeated, especially if you know what words you're going to use. And it is important to kind of think about what words you want to use first, so you know you've got the letters or the secrets on the desks that they're going to need. Because what you're going to do is you are going to have the kids come up if they belong in the word for. So the kid that has the F and the O and the R all have to jump up, and they have to run to the front of the room and put themselves in order to make the word for. Now, if you want to make it a little easier, you could just put the OR or use the OR secret, the little OR card in the pocket. So one little guy is or. And so it's easier for them, again, because the secret isn't broken apart. It's intact. But if you want to make it harder, kids can be individual letters, which means even a word like transportation, they're going to have to come up and sort themselves into the proper sequence. So maybe a halfway point to this game is to use those secret cards for the secret sounds. And that's what you'll see on the TPT that I did with the headbands. I also, though, incorporated the individual ones so that you could do it either way. But it helps for kids who are still slower to make those connections, especially, again, with those little learning glitches. Seeing a little guy who's got ATION on his little card in his vest or on his headband, that would help them understand the word transportation. So they can see the secrets as they are kind of separated out from the word. But boy, does it get hairy when they have individual letters, especially when they have to sort themselves. So if you're not sure what this would look like, think about the games where kids have to organize themselves based on height. You ever done that where you take like 8 kids and you say, okay, guys, I want you to get in order from shortest to tallest. So they're all like going up to one and the next and the next, and they're measuring, and then they're switching spots. And they do exactly the same thing with this, because they're not totally sure, since they can't get a global viewpoint, that if I'm the R, that I'm in the exact right place until I keep butting my head and decoding as I go. Now, the ultimate judge, and I used to call it my peanut gallery, are the rest of the kids whose letters were not part of that word, because they're either going to give you this for yes or this for no way. And basically the yes means they have identified and sounded out that word, and it actually is, or at least they think it is, spelled correctly. And that's why this is nice, because the kids are making a call on yes or no, and you can see and assess who's correct and who's not before the whole class just calls out and says, that's wrong, or the O's in the wrong place. They don't get to do that. They only get to do this or this. So kids who are not correct, you can see that maybe they're not putting those sounds together correctly. Once they've been deemed either right or wrong by the peanut gallery. If they're wrong, they have a chance to reorganize themselves. Now, if they try to reorganize themselves and they still can't get it, then you can call on a student from the peanut gallery to come in and build the word. And this is what I used to call Be My Brain. And it actually leads to one other way you can play this game. That is the student, and all those letters are in their brain. And they get to basically conduct the word. In other words, they get to take your little shoulders and move you to where you need to be so that the word is spelled the way that it's supposed to be spelled. And of course, that basically turns the kids with the letters into, like, blocks, because they're not actually trying to maneuver themselves. But it's a fun way to check and balance, keep the peanut gallery engaged so that those kids that don't have the letters aren't tuning out. And then you can play another round of this game where it's a Be My Brain version. And that means one student is in charge of, once those you take, and when you do this, when one student's in charge, you do have to do this slightly differently, in that you have to, let's say I have the letters for fantastic in my hand. I would call up a kid per letter and hand them out. And then I would just get them to all just go stand over there, and I would tell little Johnny, okay, Johnny, you need to spell the word fantastic. Now, I've provided the letters that are going to be needed to spell the word fantastic, and one kid is holding each letter, but they're all randomly just standing there. So Johnny's got to go up and maneuver each student block into the proper place to get the word fantastic. And then he's got to sound it out, and the peanut gallery's got to tell him whether he's right or whether he's wrong. So either way you play it, it adds a lot of challenges. I think my favorite way to play it, though, is for the kids to maneuver themselves, because it keeps more kids more actively engaged. And then it still offers the opportunity for someone else to come up and kind of, put it together at the end. One trick I will tell you when you're doing any of these games, spelling secrets around the world, or this Be My Brain, or students becoming the letters, any of these games, there's something called vowel hearts. And I probably should have put a link to this one, and I didn't. I will. Vowel hearts help them to hear the syllabic divisions that make secrets easier to notice when kids are just starting to put all this together. So there's a spelling bee that you're actually going to see, and I'll put a link to it. It's a kindergarten spelling bee, and you'll hear kids coming up, and it was a kindergarten group, and they were given no words at all in advance, but words were tossed out in different levels, and depending on the student's level, that dictated what level the word would be. But they didn't know what the words were going to be. They just were going to get one, and then off the top of their head, they had to see how close they could come to spelling it. So some little guys might have the word cat or sit. A medium level word might be, storm, or they. A harder word might be exclamation point. So the one little guy that got exclamation point, I always would ask them, would you like vowel hearts? And you'll hear him immediately go, mm-hmm. And what that means is I'm going to clap out the parts for him. Now, this is something kids can do for themselves as well. In the case of the spelling bee, I did it for them so that he could hear each part. So just like I said, fantastic, you can hear each part. It's especially important when the parts contain a secret, because, if there's a Asian, when you have sounds that come together and the letters aren't making the sounds that they should, they need to hear the secret intact. So all vowel hearts is a trick, and you tell the kids every word or every piece of a word, meaning every syllable, has to have at least one vowel heart, or that word will die. So if you have a word and you don't have a vowel in that word, that whole word is going to die. So every piece of a word has to have at least one vowel heart, or it will die. Now, this helps not just for helping them sound out words and letting you segment the syllables, but it also helps when they are trying to write a word like bird and could justify writing BRD. Because if they write BRD, they could say, look, duh, see, it's good. Why do I need to put another letter in there? So the only argument you have to explain why that isn't okay is to say, no, that word's going to die. That word's going to die because it doesn't have a vowel heart. How else can you get the sound in the word bird with a vowel heart? Now that should immediately trigger them to go to the, ER, give me another one. UR, give me the last one. IR, yep, that's the one I want. So it just gives you a way to make sure that they're stuffing the words with what needs to be in them, and that way you're always making sense. And you'll see it comes in super handy when kids are either trying to spell around the world or do that putting yourself in order game, because it helps them hear the chunks that they're trying to build as they're putting them together, as they're encoding. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking now. I think that's a good overview of everything that you'll be able to see and solidify in that blog post that will be coming next week, where there'll be some pictures of some of these things too. And because it's already 6, I am going to just super quickly scan, because this has not been interactive at all. This has been me talking about all these games. So I want to just make sure that I am addressing anything that I see that jumps out here. And of course, I need my glasses because I can't see. And I will also tell you that, well, I can't tell you how there's a way for the winner of the kit to be picked. That's, I think, a smart way to do it. But if I tell you before the end, it will blow it. So I can't tell you that till the end, but I won't take more than 5 minutes to go through some of these and just make sure I'm able to answer anything that's there. Okay. Oh yeah. Signing into YouTube. Sorry. I know there's a ton of people that are kind of locked out till they figure that out. Once they've done this 1 week, I think it's easy to figure out. But prior to that, I apologize if you're locked out and you're not able to comment. Okay. Oh, good. I'm happy that you finished the book in 2 days. That's awesome. Cutting the posters into original fun shapes. There are some awesome ways to cut your original posters. Those original posters can be cut into the shapes of the actual secrets that add just a whole nother layer of connection for kids. And I was asked earlier this week about sharing those pictures. I will put them all into one blog post, I promise. But in the meantime, the best way to see the bulk of them is actually to go to Instagram. On Instagram, all you have to do is put @thesecretstories. You have to put the word "the" in, or you can click on a link on the website, I think, too. And if you go to that and you just scroll down, you will see them. You can also find at least one example on the Secret Stories website under the Original Posters tab. So if you go to Products, click on Original Posters, you'll see the ones that Melissa made, and they're awesome. And then some other teachers have done some as well, and it's almost like a creativity contest, because there's so many amazing ways that they've thought of to shape these. So you'll see a lot more of them on Instagram, but you can also see at least one version of what it is you're looking for on Instagram on the website. So that's awesome that you've already started to cut yours. I am the world's worst artist, so I would never cut anything because I know it would look like a 5-year-old did it. And I'm sorry if there's an echo. I really hope everybody else isn't hearing that echo, or I hope that it's gone now, Amy. Okay, let's see. Have the kit. Oh, I have the kit, but need to start. Yes, Helen, do start. Jump in. Just start building that buffet. I was just talking to another teacher this week, and we were saying that even if it's the last day of school, the last hour of the last day of school, one piece of the code can open up thousands of words, and it's as easy as telling a story. So just like you might read a cute Junie B. Jones story, on the last day of school, this is a story that's got a golden nugget buried inside of it, which is one more piece of the code. And just one piece of the code can open up so many words. So even if they leave your classroom and never come back, and I've done workshops with school districts where I'm not there till the last week of school, and here they're getting this book and these posters, and I'm not going to say, I'll go hang up all those posters because it's the last week of school. But certainly toss out a couple secrets, and whatever secrets you toss out, make sure the poster's up. Now, never would I say don't put the posters up first unless it's the last week of school. Even if it's the last 9 weeks of school, make sure all the posters are up, because that's your key to the kingdom. That's what lets kids know there's really good looking chocolate cake over there that they want to taste. It's so important that they drive their own instruction. And if there's a secret poster that's containing the letters in the word they can't read, then they know there's a way to get a hold of it, and they can come to you and ask for it. If they don't know the secret exists, then they just see that word as a locked door. So it is key to have those posters up, but always feel free to jump in. You can't do it wrong. There's no wrong way to tell a secret. These are just ways to play with it and tweak it even more. But open the book to any page and just put your finger down and just tell that secret. Or better yet, hold up any poster that you want to, any poster, and just hold it up and ask the kids if they can tell you what they think might be going on there. And then you can get your book of secrets to see if they were right and tell them the story. So there's so many ways. And one more thing you can do if you're totally clueless about the secrets and you don't want to, or you don't have time to look at the book first, because really all you need to do is read the secret classified section to get started first. That's the core of everything. But let's say you just have no idea and you just want to jump in, wrap your book in foil, glue some feathers to it, stick it in a locked drawer, hang the key on the wall, call it your book of secrets. And if kids come to a word in your class and they can't read it, like the word, this or thorn or sphere or whatever the word might be, where letters don't make the sounds they should when they come together, say, Johnny, go get my book of secrets. Let's see if there's a secret in that word. And then they go unlock the door, they get the book of secrets, they bring it to you like a wizard's book. You then go through it, you find the secret, you tell them the secret, you show them the secret, and then it's a tool they can have and they can use. So the only downside to that is, again, you want them up. So get them up as soon as you can after the fact, but don't be afraid to tell something that you don't maybe know yet, and just go with the flow. They're always rooted in a familiar behavior. So you can tell it any way you want. There's no wrong way to tell the secret. But the book of secrets will help kind of save you if you're not quite sure what the poster is actually depicting. Critical thinking. I just saw that word right off the bat. I don't know. See, that's where I lose. Okay, I'm coming back to critical thinking. South Florida. Hey, I was in South Florida for a really long time. I don't know what part of South Florida you're in. Heckers, which I'm sure is a combination of your first and last name, but I was in Wellington, so nice to see you here. Okay, and I've backtracked here. You could order again. Pastel kit. I see that. If I could order again, I would order the pastel kit with the funky border, or the kit with the funky border. Okay, cutting is is okay. Cutting is a lot of cutting is tricky. But one thing you can do if the cutting is a problem, you can also back. And I tell teachers to do this with their old posters, because it's nice to have again, different sets of visuals. If you cut and it goes awry, you can always back it on a piece of larger construction paper, so that it's consistent in size with the other secrets that you can also back. And then you can make what's like a student big book. Some districts will actually purchase another set of posters for teachers to make a take-home big book, and they use school improvement funds because it connects parents and home learning when kids can actually take on a rotating basis. And it even works as a good reward, like for the partner group that got the most secrets. So one gets to take it home the first half of the week, one the second half of the week. But kids love to get inside info on the secrets. Not only do they like to retell the ones they know to their parents, but they like to also get ahead and see some that they haven't been taught yet. So it's a great way to connect the parents with what's going on at home. And because that's usually written into most school improvement plans, oftentimes the Portapics or the second set of visuals, or even a parent checkout version of the book is funded with your PTA or your school improvement plan to satisfy that objective, which is usually an administrative objective, but it's to connect parents. That's actually part of what I mentioned that Amy was doing for the parents on that holiday night, where they had those gifts that they were opening. It was toward that end. And I think she was mentioning doing another one of those in February for Valentine's Day, which for different schools. She works with different schools. So if that happens, I'll try to pull those together and put those in a blog post too. Okay, ocean theme room in Florida. Yeah, that's so fun. I love the ocean in Florida. Ties in higher level thinking, requires them to think and listen to the peers. Yeah, that's really, it doesn't help to know letters and sounds and patterns if you're not learning them for the purpose of reading and writing. And I think we are so our perspective is so limited when we are at the earlier grade levels, because our role is just to give them this part of the code, and they can't do anything yet with that part of the code. And we know that, so we don't expect a lot of critical thinking or application of what that skill does, because it's just one piece of a giant puzzle that they're not going to get all of until the end of second grade. So when you're just one cog in this 3 to 4 grade level year time frame of skill introduction, you don't always think about, why are they learning this? What are they going to do with it? But when you reverse it and you sneak through the back door and give them access to the whole code, then all of a sudden there's a means to the end, because they're actually doing something with this secret. They can use it to read this word, to write this word. And that's really the only reason to learn phonics. The only reason to do anything with phonics at all. It doesn't even exist for a realistic purpose of any meaningful, there's no meaningful purpose to phonics other than to using it to read and using it to write. It is the means to that end. So phonics for phonics sake is the last thing we want to do. Anything that we give kids becomes a tool for them to apply as a reader and as a writer, to read the books they really love, to write the stories they want to tell. That's what really hooks them into using these tools and then getting that deep in the gut ownership with them. So critical thinking, absolutely. That's why I think the twisting and turning of these games is so useful, because just when they think they've wrapped their head around it, you throw them for a loop and turn it in a different direction. So they're always having to spin their wheels. We might sneak through the back door and bypass higher level processing to get those secrets in there, because we're really, we're combating a lot of developmental readiness issues by sneaking all these in at the earliest grade levels, we're able to do something they shouldn't be able to do because we're sneaking them in a way that's easy, where there's no expectation. But as soon as they're in there, we want to start using them. And that's where the higher level critical thinking front door kicks back in, because it's that front door, that executive processing center, that's doing with these skills what actually they're taught for. So we're not avoiding the higher level thinking by slipping things through the back door. We're just making sure that we give the skills easily to everyone at the earliest possible grade levels, so that when those higher level processing powers are more mature and ready through lots of modeling that we have given them to observe, they have what they need to immediately start putting things together. They're not sitting with the short end of the stick and missing a year's worth of skills that they weren't ready to capture. So that's a whole nother post for another time. I do the short vowel letter run with my struggling readers, Lisa Buckley, using a pointer and headphones for my iPhone with me at my table. What a hit. Yeah, I love that. Just the letter runs are the most fun thing. You can do them forwards and backwards and long and short, and boys against girls. They're starting with the girls and then the boys take over. That's a whole video for another time, all the ways you can play with the music. I didn't mention laser lights. If your school is not outlawing the lasers, I know teachers that purchase lots of them at the dollar store so that they'll tell a story or tell a sound, or let a kid tell a story or a sound, and everybody's got to shoot their laser on the poster that's being talked about. If lasers are not allowed, we were not allowed to have lasers, then flashlights. They're just unfortunately a little more expensive and the batteries are a pain. But flashlights are another way they can instantly, identify the secret. That could be a center if you don't have enough money for flashlights for everyone, but it's a fun way for kids to run themselves, because you could say, okay, Johnny, tell a secret, make a sound. That's what we called that game. And Johnny would just get up, he would toss out any secret that he felt like as far as the story goes, and then everybody had to identify which one he was talking about. Or he could just toss out the sound and everybody had to identify which one he was talking about, and then he could call on someone to tell the story. So whether it's sound to story or story to sound, those lights make it a lot of fun. And again, you're just building that visual connection from sound to symbol, symbol to sound. Okay, I love the red, stands out. The red, there is a reason for the red, and I think I did mention this before. Red is the best way to get the highest rate of recall for formulamatic data. So not a poem, but if you have a quick imprint, something that's logo-like, the highest rate of recall, it's actually 3 times over any other color combination, is when it's black on red. That's the reason for the red, those red posters. Now, having said that, they're engaging and interacting with the secrets so frequently. I think those pastel decorative ones will still be a good option. I just know that the red has that kind of imprint capability for quick visual acuity. If they're in your regular classroom and you're reading it right across the day, I don't know that it's going to make as much of a difference. But if you're in a resource room and you've got limited contact with them, the red is going to be more key, because you've got to make more of an impression, more bang for your buck faster. And if you're in a resource room, you're going to have to go small anyway, and they only come in red. So the Space Saver kits are what resource teachers would have to probably opt for, and those aren't in the pastel colors anyway. Okay, and okay, and okay, I think I'm just going back and forth here. Kids are obsessed with candy quizzes. Yay! I know, I love it. Oh, Jurassic Park. Yeah, that's good music too. Introduced to concentration as word work. Yeah, all of this, word work's just another name that this all falls under. And any of these are fine guided reading activities that are super easy. Dislike this. Okay. Oh boy. Well, that was a weird little thing there. I think we had a little troll. Okay. Just heard about this. Can't wait to buy the secrets. Never thought of making cards that weren't from the pack without the pics. Okay, let's see. Students are in love with them. Have even had students go with their arms when they're reading a cheap. Yeah, what's used together is fused together in the brain. So kids you will get kicked under your guided reading table when a word with the sound comes up. If kids are very, especially boys that tend to be very active based with their learning, the more they engage in those physical activities that are those gestures that happen naturally when they tell a secret, the more likely those will be hanging on even once they're not needed anymore. It's just like a knee-jerk reaction. So that's a good thing. That's just one more connection. But they will fall by the wayside as kids are not needing to access the bridge anymore. Circle the secrets in reading passages. That's great. One teacher had an idea that when your kids are highlighting secrets they see in words in a reading group, she lets them capture as many as they can, and then she goes back to see if any escaped. So they'll highlight them, let's say, with their little yellow marker, and then she'll go back in afterward with the guided group after they have maybe 2 minutes to go through on a page or in a little reader to see how many they capture. She'll go back in and see how many each reader let escape by circling them, let's say, in blue. And the kids hate it when some of the words escape, words with secrets that they didn't catch or capture. Uh, okay, conversation station. Each first grader to make the adjustment in terms of assessment by 4 weeks in. It's spelling test. Yeah, it is. It's in first grade. You've got more of a regimented progression of what you're doing and when. But I think no matter, and that's why I think some of the posts that are on the blog are so helpful. No matter how regimented your routine has to be, and certainly first grade is very different from kinder and second and third, fourth, and fifth and onward. The walls just kind of get tighter and tighter. The best way I've ever seen laid out for a real good game plan on how it looks to coordinate things together using the secrets to get off your plate the stuff that you're having to do so that you make short work of it and have time in between to really kind of go off and do other things like these games or taking things to a higher level would be that post, a couple of the last posts, but the one that the one about I think it's called Boost Your Reading Series with brain-based phonics instruction. And it really lays out exactly what it can look like for about 3 weeks following the course of the scope and sequence in first grade, going through all the things that you have to do, but using the secrets to get them done quicker, faster, and easier so that you actually aren't wasting a lot of time doing things that aren't needed. And you have more time to get back to the fun of actually teaching first grade. And even some video clips that I think are in there. And again, just ways to use the things that you have on your plate that you have to do in conjunction with amping the secrets up. So they really start to feed off of each other and then little by little give you more flexibility. But you do have to think more about that. So I love that particular post. And that was one I think that Tara had done. So you can find that on the blog as well. No candy in our district. Yeah, stickers are good. Tokens are good. We did sticker cards. And then the sticker cards could be traded in at the end of the 9 weeks for prizes, that cost a certain number of stickers. Mini erasers, great idea. Okay, captured in the word. Okay, and let's see. Story poster for every letter plus the blends and digraphs. There's no secrets for letters because when letters do what they do when they're supposed, letters, let me say this differently. There's no secret for individual letters because when letters actually make the sound they're supposed to, thank goodness. So B saying buh, no secret needed because it's doing just what it should. Secrets are what letters do when they don't do what they should. Now, having said that, it's hard to teach individual letters. So you need something to accelerate it. And we use muscle memory. So muscle memory takes 2 weeks to 2 months. Better Alphabet Song knocks it out. And I know some of you have heard me say that before. I can put a link to that as well into this post. The Better Alphabet Song is all muscle memory. It goes through lips, tongue, and teeth. It takes 2 weeks to 2 months. And simultaneously to that, you are tossing out secrets. From day one in school, you're tossing out secrets because a T is no more or less important than a TH. You need both to read or write the word the. So every word's like that. There'll be secrets and there'll be individual letter sounds. Kids need both to power either or up. So individual letter sounds don't have secrets. They have muscle mouth for capturing. And then the secrets are what letters do when they come together and do not do what they should. And blends are just 2 letters making the sounds they're supposed to, but smushed together. So the blends are also captured with muscle memory. And there's actually a blender song that you'll see. Blends are actually will be you won't even have to think about the blends. But muscle memory, Better Alphabet Song for individual letters, and secrets for what letters do when they don't do what they should. And it all is simultaneously done. The brain is a multiprocessor, so you can't get very far with only one or the other. You need both working together to really accelerate access to the code, maximize the reading and writing you're going to do anyway all day long. Okay, and I think I'm working my way to the end here, so I don't keep you guys. Easy way to put the cards on the wall without putting holes in them. Without putting holes in the wall or holes in the cards? I'm confused. Okay, I'm not sure if you mean the posters. Usually teachers will either hot glue them once they've laminated them to the wall, unless you're talking about like these, like when we were talking about putting them on the board. And if you have a magnetic board, just a magnet. I don't know what the holes would be. I don't know if your room has like wooden walls or if you're not allowed to hot glue. So I'm not totally sure I understand that question. That was Lynn. Painter's tape. Okay, yeah, so that's good. Yeah, because you don't want to put holes in the posters. Okay. And okay, well, I think I answered about everything that I saw. If I missed your question, I apologize for it. I did see one, Lauren, about a alphabet chart on TPT. Just so you know, you don't have to have that alphabet chart. You do not need to buy that. Whatever alphabet chart, I mean, you can, but whatever alphabet chart you're using is completely doable. That alphabet chart, the Secret Stories vertical alphabet chart, serves two purposes. One is it makes sure that you have both sounds for every letter, because oftentimes alphabet charts leave off hard or soft, like G, C, sounds. It has both sounds for all the vowels, and it has the correct sounds. X doesn't say xylophone. X doesn't say x-ray. It can, but it's highly unlikely comparatively to everything else X says, which is X, not everything else, but every other word it's in. So many alphabet trains have the wrong sound cues tied with the letter. And that was just my attempt to make sure that kids are armed with exactly every possible thing a letter can do. The O is not going to have an orange next to it because O doesn't say or. O by itself can do two things, ah or O. So, there's so many, and you'll see them all over Teacher Pay Teachers, or you'll even see them through publishers. They will have cues that are just a graphic picture that might be attractive, but it's not the sound cue that actually is the most likely sound the letter will make. Kids get so little mileage out of those individual letters and sounds that it's almost just cruel to send them off on a wild goose chase with sounds that those letters actually can't make unless they have another letter to make it with. Like I've seen oysters with a pretty pearl for the O. O can't say oi. Oh, Y and O-I can, but that's a secret. So, nobody wants a picture of an ugly old ox up there, but at least then would be a good sound cue. So that's one reason it's there. And the other reason I put it up there is when you start doing the letter runs and you're going abacadabra, or you're going backward or forward, one of the ways to bring it up a notch is to do it super fast. And it is hard to run all the way across your classroom back and forth when you're singing going forward and backward. It is so much easier to sit in your nice little stool and do this with your arm since it's vertically aligned. You can hang it up this way and this way. And I actually do both. I put the bigger version across the top of the wall, and then I put the one that goes like this down, so that when we're going to do the letter runs and we're going to really go rapid with that brain teasing singing, I don't have to get that much exercise in the morning. So anyway, to wrap that up, hopefully that answers all the questions that you have. And if you have any more, just shoot them in the comments below. The comments that you have posted here, I will cut and paste to put underneath the video because they disappear, but you can actually find them if you know where to click on the button that shows the live chat. And if it looks like the ones you made are not there, and I have to give away the prize. If it looks like it's not there, the comments run with the video timing. So if you don't see your comment and you made it toward the end of the video, you actually have to scrub to the end part of the video because the comments are in real time with the video, which is kind of neat, but it threw a lot of us off last week because we didn't see some of the comments. I will also cut and paste them in the comments below for those of you who don't know where that button is to see the chat or to view it live. But there's so much great info in the chat that's just key to have access to that. So I'll do that. Now, the way that we're going to do this giveaway for the Secret Stories tonight is I am going to take today's date, which is the 6th, and I'm going to count 6 up from the bottom starting now. So you can't add any more to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That makes Terry Robinson the winner this week. So 6 up from the bottom. Terry Robinson, if you want to email me and let me know, I think you're talking about laminating something. So you may already have the posters. You can pick anything else that you would like to supplement that, and just shoot me an email, katie@katiegarner.com. And everybody else, I will not see you next Sunday because I'll be flying back from the California Kindergarten Conference. Hope to see some of you there. I am going to try to strong arm a couple other folks that might be willing to do a Secret Sunday if I can, although it might be last minute timing. So worst case scenario, we will be skipping next Sunday, but I will see you the Sunday after, and just keep your eye on the Secret email blast or on the Facebook post, and you'll get a heads up alert. So or if you follow here on YouTube, that will alert you as well. So thank you so much. Have a great Sunday and have a great time tomorrow, and send me video clips of you playing some of these games with your classes. I would absolutely love to incorporate those into the blog that I'm going to do on games. So please keep them coming. Send me pictures, feedback, anything at all. I would love to make you a part of what I share with other teachers. Thanks so much. Have a great night, and I will see you soon. Bye.